on and off rain today, although there are a lot of dry spots. Let's see if I can actually find one. And what did I read today? I guess there was news about a potential drone near miss. This one says, drone nearly hits Wiltshire air ambulance after incident in Bath. It says a drone nearly hit Wiltshire air ambulance after it attended an incident in Bath. It's understood the charity's critical care crew responded to a serious medical emergency at a hotel in the city at around 3 p.m. on Wednesday. The Bell 429 helicopter landed safely in Bath Recreation Ground, but as it took off to fly back to its Wiltshire base, a drone got dangerously close to the aircraft at 72 meters. The aircrew on board thankfully noticed the drone and were able to avoid a collision. Provided drone pilots follow the law, they are allowed to fly in Bath. However, they must ensure they don't endanger other aircraft and the drone must remain in sight. So it's one of those situations too. Would you think it's a drone or not in this case? Because again, many times it ends up actually not being the case. It says, in this instance, the pilot may have committed an offense by endangering the helicopter. The crime carries up to 5 years behind bars. Wiltshire Air Ambulance said that the Civil Aviation Authority and the Avon Somerset Police have been informed of the near miss. Safety manager Richard Miller, who is also a critical care paramedic, said, "We want drone users to have fun with their drones, but do so safely and legally. However, if a drone was to strike a helicopter, it is likely to cause significant damage due to the solid metal parts it has and a solid battery. In this instance, we were fortunate the aircrew were alert to the danger and thankfully everyone was unharmed. However, we want drone users to help us to ensure our team and life-saving operation isn't put at unnecessary risk." This is one of those topics too, where I would think in many cases it should just come down to logic and common sense, trying to educate people saying you shouldn't fly like here and there, or if you are, use extreme caution, for example, instead of just using over-the-top rules that are meant more for manned aircraft to the point where people just say, "I forget, I'm gonna ignore you," for example. I still think like the roads are the best example, where it depends on what you're using and how. You have to make it easy for the mass majority of people to understand what's going on, whose turn is it to go, and so forth. I mean, in my opinion, it should be something like that if you want to encourage safety and educate people overall in terms of traffic, in my opinion. And with that thought of drone usage, there's still that topic on how certain countries, they want to ban things like, let's say, Chinese-made drones and all that. But with that said, some people who say they use it for emergency purposes and all that are worried, I guess, they won't have anything to use afterwards. This one says, bill to ban foreign-made drones worries some Oklahoma emergency managers. A proposed bill to ban certain foreign-made drones could cause emergency managers across Oklahoma to lose a key tool. The Pottawatomie County Emergency Management Team is one of these agencies using equipment made outside the United States. While their drone is property of the Pottawatomie County Emergency Management, it was made in China. We wouldn't be able to afford American-made drones. There's no way. We would have to ground what we have. They would become paperweights at that point, and our program would be non-existent, said Chad Larman, the Pottawatomie County Emergency Manager Director. He said banning these drones could put the public at risk. House Bill 3068 would ban the state from buying or using foreign-made drones, specifically from China or Russia. That's kind of an interesting thought in general, because they say they would be forced to, I guess, use nothing as a result. It made me wonder if that's kind of the case. Is it more the fact that they invested it already and they don't have any funds to buy anything new? Or are they saying they are going to buy something new and nothing is affordable within their range? Because even from a consumer point of view, you could argue which manufacturer is better and all that, but a lot of them, they actually have comparable products within the price range and all that. So it makes me wonder how accurate that is anyways, in terms of not being able to use anything at all. And for those larger commercial enterprise types of drones too, man, with that price range, again, they're all kind of within the same, I guess, bracket in terms of budget and all that, I would imagine anyways. But what would you think here? Is that a valid point, saying they need to use it for quote emergency use, so you need to let them use it in that sense? And there was a lot of news about this today, where apparently it dealt with that transgender swimmer, Lia Thomas. I remember seeing the news about this, where this person beat virtually every woman on this swimming competition, and it generated a lot of controversy, kind of like those other ones. I think the over-exaggerated ones would be, there's a guy or someone like that who purposely entered into a women's weightlifting competition and he basically just smoked it. Like, he did it to prove a point. So there's a controversy there. Should a transgender be able to, I guess, compete in any types of division that they want, I guess, sports-wise? It says transgender swimmer Lia Thomas asked CAS to overturn race ban rules as discrimination. Transgender swimmer Lia Thomas has asked a Swiss sports court to overturn rules imposed by World Aquatics that stop her from competing in elite women's races and she says are discrimination. The courts of arbitration for sports said on Friday it registered Thomas's request, but no date for a hearing was decided. Confidentiality around the case, begun in September, was lifted after it was reported in British media. Ms. Thomas seeks an order from the CAS declaring that the World Aquatics rules are unlawful, invalid, and of no force and effect, and the court based in the Olympic home of Lausanne, Switzerland. World Aquatics agreed on the rules in June 2022 that banned transgender women who have been through male puberty from competing in women's races. It also created an open category for which transgender athletes would be eligible. Well, that's kind of interesting because that was one of the arguments too I've often heard, whether or not you should just create a completely separate division of sorts. So in that sense, I'm kind of interested what the argument there would be. It says other Olympic sport bodies, including track and field and cycling, have since adopted similar rules which supporters say acknowledge physical advantages from male puberty that athletes retain long-term after transitioning. Swimming rules were agreed months after Thomas, then a student at the University of Pennsylvania, won a national college title in the 500-yard freestyle. Thomas's result in the women's races exceeded her previous result in the men's races. That was the other controversy I remember, where they said this person did try to compete, I guess, professionally, like swimming before, against other men and did really poorly. So once the person started to compete in the women's division, then all of a sudden he excelled. So people are debating, is that the case here where a person just wants to compete in that division for more glory and publicity, I guess you could say. When it comes to this topic though, I guess for myself, again, it usually comes down to life consistency. It doesn't make sense when I'm trying to think about it in terms of some of the logic. For example, how does one determine they are, quote, let's just say transgender? Because in a lot of these cases, when it comes to sporting events, it seems like it's just a person saying they are this, like a person saying, okay, I am a woman or I am a man, for example. And in that regards, I don't think that's consistent with the other things we do in life. So I guess an example of sports, what I would think of is there are things like the Special Olympics, for example, and to my knowledge, there are certain stipulations in terms of what qualifies a person to actually participate in those sports. Like it says here, an intellectual functioning level IQ is below 70 to 75. Significant limitations exist in 2 or more adaptive skill areas, and the condition manifests itself before the age of 18. So imagine there with that same type of argument, if it's just a person saying they are or whatever, let's pretend it's something that has to do with people that are paralyzed or in a wheelchair. Could somebody literally say, okay, I believe I was, for example, meant to sit in a wheelchair their entire life. They're not going to use their leg in the entire sport, so technically there's no competitive advantage for them. So should they literally be able to, I guess, participate in that sport in that way? They're sitting in a wheelchair all day long. That's kind of like my thought there in terms of the logic. I would think most people would say, I don't think so. Like, you're not, quote, paralyzed like everyone else, correct? Or I guess a more interesting example would be, let's just say this person here says they're, for example, a woman, so they're competing in women's sports. What's stopping the person the next day, week, or month saying, okay, I'm a male again today because I want to enter this particular sport. So now they can too. Like, how do you distinguish, I guess, the rules in that sense, both logically and I guess logistically in a fair way? Okay, no luck with the rain today, I guess, huh? I'll have to test for the archive. Alright, see you guys later.